Good morning. Okay, so this question is another two-part one, but let's just pretend for now that it's only one part, just so you feel comfortable with that, and then we can add the second part on. And that's fine to do that anytime where you are just not feeling comfortable doing the two steps together, okay? So we're gonna start by highlighting what information we're given, what we could possibly do with it. So I'm not even gonna read the question. I'm just gonna start by saying, that's a number with a unit, that's a number with a unit, that's a unit by itself, okay? And for now, let's call this grams instead of kilograms, okay? So just by having those three numbers, I'm going to say, and maybe we should give these like acronyms, not acronyms, symbols. So like this is where I'm going to start because it is a number with a single unit following it. This is the unit where I'm going to end because it's a unit by itself. And because this one is a unit over another unit, this is going to be one of my conversion factors. Okay, so I'm going to start with 275 centimeters cubed. I'm going to use some conversion factor, and I'm going to end with grams. Okay, now in this one, since they gave you a conversion factor in the question, you can be pretty sure that's one that you're going to use. Sometimes you might not always be given those things directly in the question, which is why it's good to have like a list of conversion factors. So far we've had metric to metric conversions, which those are the ones you're going to have to memorize the multipliers and know how to use those. And then we've had English to metric, which are going to be given on your exam equation sheet or in the question itself. And now we've added density. And in chapter 2, we'll add a couple more as well. Okay, so this one gives you density already. And every single time you do one of these problems, we know that this unit that's up here at the beginning has to be the same as this one on the bottom. And if it's a single step problem, then this unit that you're ending with has to be on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and write those in before I even worry about what numbers and where do they come from. Okay. So once I have that set up, now I need to look for a number that can fill in here, and it has to have those matching units. So because they gave you a conversion factor that has grams over centimeters cubed, this one is actually pretty easy. You don't have to go looking for the conversion factor. All you need to remember is that the 1 for the centimeters cubed is implied, okay? And it's already in the form like upside down or right side up that we need. You could also use it in this direction if you needed to. But since centimeters cubed is on the bottom, that's the one that we're going to use. So 2.70 over 1 centimeter cubed. So now all we do is 275 times 2.70, and that comes out to 740. It's 742.5, but we're going to round up because it's a 5. We're going to round up to 743. We haven't finished our conversation about sig figs, so you don't totally know this. But because there's 3 digits in the beginning answer, we want our end answer to have 3 as well. So that's why I stopped at 743 instead of 742.5. Okay, so what if the question was asking for kilograms? And that's when it's a little bit more complicated. So in that instance, and I'm going to erase this, but you can obviously pause the video and go back and look at it if you need to. Okay. So this is our end unit now. So I can see immediately that I'm going to have 2 steps. It's okay if you don't see that. Like, let's go ahead and pretend like you don't see it. But I think as you get more experience, you will start to be able to see that it's going to need multiple steps. And when you have one of those, I would recommend doing this unit route rather than trying to set up the calculation immediately. Okay, so we're going to go from centimeters cubed to something and eventually get to kilograms. The problem is that there is no conversion factor that I know that gets me from centimeters cubed to kilograms. It's not a metric to metric conversion. It's not an English to metric, and it's not a density. Now, it could be a density if they gave it to us in kilograms per centimeter cubed, but they didn't. They gave it to us in grams per centimeter cubed, okay? So the only thing that I can convert centimeters cubed to is grams, because that's the only conversion factor that I have that lets me get out of centimeters cubed. The other hint is that it's pretty easy to go from grams to kilograms because that's just a metric conversion. So that's another hint that going to grams is a good idea, okay? But like really what's telling you that is that this conversion factor has the units grams and it has the units centimeters cubed. So if I'm starting with centimeters cubed, I can easily get to grams using this conversion factor. That's kind of the whole point, is that if it has those two units, it's going to be a way that you can get in between the two. Okay? Then I can go from grams to kilograms, which is a metric conversion. Okay? So at this point, you've basically planned out your calculation, and I might have to pause this and do this in two parts. Hopefully not. But in this instance, now you've set up your calculation. And I'm going to like write a note on here so I don't forget. This is the conversion factor I'm using for this step here. And then for this step, I'm going to use the metric multipliers. Okay? So the first step is going to be identical to what we did before. It's just that instead of stopping, and we can do it both ways. We could do it as two separate problems. But instead of stopping, I'm going to go ahead and go to grams. Like this is what I did before. But instead of doing that, I'm going to get rid of this. And if this is the point where you're getting confused, you can go ahead and let me know, and I'll show it to you the two separate ways. Okay? So we have two conversion factors. This is the first one. The metric conversion is going to be our second one, and that's going to get us to kilograms. So just like in the previous problem, before we do anything else, let's set up the units. So we know this needs to come down here. These two are going to have to match, and these two are going to have to match. So that's always how it will look. Top and bottom, and then whatever's on the top will be your answer. Okay? So centimeters cubed and kilograms, those are ones I know for sure. But I know that grams goes here because that's what's in my conversion factor. And then that has to match down here. So now I put in the numbers. So for this one, 2.70 per 1 centimeter cubed. That was the density. That's the one we did before. And then I need to remember what the metric conversion is. So for kilo, the prefix is 10 to the third. And that's grams per 1 kilogram. So you might need some, just 1 second, you might need some review on how to use those metric conversions. But that should be good to go. And when you do that multiplication, you get 0.743. Okay?